I'm Allendale's chief meteorologist Ryan Martin with a look at your midday weather update. Latest run of the models in here, looking kind of interesting. You know, a lot of times at midday, all we really have in terms of new model runs is my favorite and yours, the GFS model. You know, the GFS trying to bring in a fairly significant amount of rain into parts of the Corn Belt going forward. We haven't really liked the way that the GFS has handled this. It seems to be a little bit too wet in our minds, but models are in agreement that there's going to be a monster storm complex come through. But what do we mean by monster? When I talk monster here, I'm talking still probably, half, 1.5, maybe some 2-inch rain totals out of this over a couple of days. But when I say monster, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of this low. The actual low pressure center is just huge, very, very deep, and it's going to create some very strong winds where it tracks through. And I think that is the key right now as we move through the midday session. The GFS model now backing its track up to the west just a little bit. It's interesting. We see this system going from the northeast Colorado area, Fort Morgan, Sterling, Burlington, Colorado, that area, as we go through midnight about Tuesday night to Monday night, rather, to near the Bismarck area as we go through midnight to Tuesday night, and then on up into places like the Ontario-Manitoba border, for example, as we go into Wednesday midnight time frame. So that's a track that's way far east. Initially, models, and the European still does, track this storm farther to the east, getting it into central Ontario and eventually Quebec. So track is going to be key here. If the GFS is right, which it's not, but if it were, it's going to be leading to less rain in the Corn Belt because it's all going to be frontal boundary based and more far in the upper Midwest and into Canada. What I think we're going to see here is probably a move more back toward a track that's like the European, a little bit farther east, but the key is going to be a secondary low that forms in Texas, probably around the late Thursday or Thursday afternoon, Friday time frame. That's where some heavier rains could come. So I'm leaving the forecast alone here. No matter what the GFS wants to do here on its midday runs, throw that out right now. I still like a track that takes the low, the strong main body low, into Ontario, and then a second low coming ripping up through that will bring some 1/2 to 1.25 inch rains to Missouri, Illinois, Indiana as we go toward the end of next week. That solution also then renders itself nice with what we see coming in behind, which is another dry push. We actually think we're going to be seeing some below normal temperatures. As a matter of fact, in our online write-up this morning, we put a map up there of morning lows around the 5th, the morning of the 5th, October 5th. They're going to be down pretty chilly in the 30s and 40s over parts of Minnesota, northern Wisconsin. But we're getting close, October 5th, close to time frames when that's when you start to get cold there anyway, so I don't think it's a big story. But then we see a general cool period, maybe some colder air trying to sag southward out of Canada. But the GFS a couple of days ago trying to dive that air right on in, boy, it's kind of backpedaled on that. The European is right in line with a cooler pattern, but a drier pattern as we go through about the 9th, 10th, and 11th, so on and so forth. So basically, we're still looking at a forecast that includes one good rain event out of the next 2.5 weeks or so. And it's coming as we go through next week, specifically midweek on toward the end. Back in the plains, it'll be a little bit sooner. The best rains in Colorado, the western plains, Colorado, Nebraska, Panhandle, and such, probably will come as we go into and through Monday of this coming week. Now, we also need to say that there are some wild and crazy forecasts the farther west you go, calling for good snows in the mountains and the Rockies, and they're trying to bring some of those snows down to valley floors. I don't think that's going to happen, but just keep in mind we still have some decent corn standing out in the fields in parts of Colorado and even into western Nebraska. So, situations like this may not be the best. Also keep in mind, as we move here, the crop toward maturity and it's ready to harvest in some spots or will be soon, the last thing we really need is 40, 45, 50-mile-an-hour winds. And like I said, this low looks to me like a monster in terms of the strength of the low pressure itself. That would lend itself to some pretty gusty winds. So we may have some issues here not really associated with rain as we go forward if the low continues to look this strong. In the meantime, if you've got any question about the weather, give us a shout at Allendale. I'm Chief Meteorologist Ryan Martin.